I just had a rehearsal for 6 minutes. I looked at it and I'm like, wait, something's wrong with this picture here. Then it went black and I'm like, wait, it's on photo. I'm talking to basically a photo camera. Okay. And I started off pretty well. I'll have to do it. I'm going to save that little ditty until I get to it. But I'm going to talk about sledding in a vacuum truck. Then I'm going to talk about, has the game passed Stan VanGundy by? Well, we'll find out. You know, obviously, looks like the Pelicans are going from bad to worse. You change coaches, that's not supposed to happen. But we'll get into that a little bit. But I want to talk about the life of Rush Limbaugh and what he meant to radio. Not the political side of it. I don't even want to tackle that. That's not what I do on this forum. And that's not what I do on You Now or anywhere else. You know, sports, anything else. I don't deal with politics. And I'm not going to. And that's not why I'm going to bring the man up. As you heard, his wife, Catherine, came on, led the show yesterday to let everybody know that he passed away. And we know he's been battling with lung cancer. And I kind of knew something was coming because I even said it the other day. I'm like, he hasn't been on in almost 3 weeks. Something ain't right. And then yesterday we got the news. Well, he started off as a disc jockey in Pittsburgh. Well, first I think he started out as a 16-year-old Cape Girardeau, where he grew up, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And he found his way to Pittsburgh and got on was on a big station there in Pittsburgh. And he started off as a disc jockey. And he played music. And then he found his way over to Kansas City and then wound up being in the PR side of things for the Kansas City Royals. And then he found himself out in Sacramento, where I think that's where he first started in talk radio. He was on a local show there. Well, the guy who ran ABC Radio at the time actually heard him on the air, and he said, I think I could do something with this guy. So he went to him and said, look, you think you could do a national radio show? You think it's something I could bring you to New York, put you on WABC, and we can syndicate it across the nation? Remember, really didn't have anything. We never had daytime. They never had a daytime syndicated show. It was also always nighttime. It was also, you had Larry King, the man who actually started it. And you had Art Bell, and you had a couple other guys. I know they had the Charlie Douglas Road Gang, but that was primarily on WWL 870 AM, and they put him all across the nation. There was a couple of little states that picked it up, but back then, WWL, AM, you could pick up in, 46 states at the time. So, 44, 45, 46 states, something like that. I really didn't hear of Rush Limbaugh until his first day on WWL, when WWL picked up the show, because WTIX had the show for 2 years, 88, 89. I never heard of the guy, didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about him. All I heard was WWL was picking up the Rush Limbaugh show. Well, and he was on WWL until he was on somewhat after Katrina. But I remember when they went WWL AM and FM. The FM, they had local stuff after Katrina. And they moved Rush over to just the AM. And then eventually Clear Channel, obviously now iHeartMedia, but then Clear Channel decided, we're going to make an FM talk station here. We're going to take WRNO, we're going to change it over to talk station, and we're going to launch it with Rush. By this time, Clear Channel and actually Clear Channel and Cumulus kind of share the show now. So they kind of, or has moved straight over to iHeart now. But I think Cumulus still has a little piece in it. Well, anyway, so I'm not talking about his political stuff, but when he first started, he was doing parodies. He was doing musical parodies and stuff like that. He did comedy bits. Just like anybody else. There's things have switched over to time. Prior to Rush, Walton and Johnson, all they were ever doing was local stuff. Q93, B97. They went to New York for a little while. They came back. Then they went to Texas. And they've been bouncing all around. They were WCKW. They were all over the place. But when they decided to syndicate regionally in the Southeast, it was because of Rush. People like Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck. These guys actually got their start by guest hosting for Rush. Yeah, Hannity and then Mark Levin and all these guys that's followed. Even Michael Savage. Rush doesn't do what he does and make it perfect. None of those guys are working nationally syndicated shows. Nobody. There's not a soul doing it at this point. So that's what he did. He basically single-handedly saved AM radio, but he also saved daytime talk radio. And what can you say about that? Rest in peace, Rush, and praying for you, your family, and everybody, and your listeners. And I know there's a lot of people that are very, very loyal to your show. That's all I can say about that. When I came on, when I thought I was talking to a video camera, I actually started with a little song. And I think it went like this. Dashing through the snow in a big old vacuum truck. Yeah, okay. I'm not a singer. I'll leave that to the singers on New You now. Maybe I can write something, get somebody to take it for me. If just somebody wants to do a parody or something. Yeah, I'll save that. Well, Monday. I guess you've heard, everybody's heard by now, we've had basically an ice storm in southeast Louisiana and all in this area. Well, they knew the forecast. They knew what was going on. They made me a schedule to go to a route to go to Jackson, Mississippi. Well, I'm driving through Louisiana and I'm like, okay, no big deal. They're not really fell yet. The minute I crossed into the Mississippi state line, it changed completely. And it was a little treacherous and a little bit there when I was around Macomb. Boy, when I got just to the north of Macomb, I think I was going 35, maybe sometimes 40 miles an hour. Maybe. I think I was averaging 35 miles an hour. By the time I got to Brookhaven, which is about 25 miles north of Macomb. Once I got to Brookhaven, I said, no, that's it. Dude, we ain't doing this. I said, I could probably get to Jackson, but I'm probably not coming back. So I called my boss, and he says, all right, we're going to give you, I think we had 2 jobs there in Brookhaven. And then we got something in Hammond when you get back. Well, actually, it was Ponchatoula, but he said Hammond at the time. So I said, all right, I'll do this. That was probably a big mistake to stay there as long as I did. Because the first job they gave me was the Walmart there in Brookhaven. And I'm like, Okay, I wasn't thinking. I'm like, okay, and I didn't think ice and everything's frozen. I think, okay, I can do the Walmart. Well, I get there. Well, their cooking oil bin's actually a big cylinder that's inside. And there's a pipe that comes out, and there's a connection. And there's a cap on that connection. That cap did not budge. I beat on it. I had screwdrivers. I got hammer. I beat on that thing. Did not even move. After about 15 minutes, I was like, okay, something's not right here. My hands were, look, they were just numb. I couldn't feel a thing. And so I hurried up, put everything back on. I got back in the truck. I turned on the heat as high as it'll go and put my hands up against the vents here, and I thawed them out that way. Man, I thought I was having severe frostbite. I'm like, man. But to drive back, I think the average was 25 miles an hour. At this point, because when I went to Walmart, it was a snowstorm. I mean, literally, yeah, thunder snow, basically, is what I had. A thunder snowstorm. And I had it's a jacket, but it also could be like a raincoat too. And I had the hood on, and look, I could hit on my head. And I'm like, oh boy, this ain't fun. But to drive back from Brookhaven, back in Louisiana, I mean, it was, at this point, I had to get a little south of Kentwood before it finally cleared up enough to where it wasn't really ice on the road at this point, where I could actually drive it. But still, I kept it at 60 miles an hour the whole time. So I'm not taking any chances. If I hit any patches, I want to be sliding and all this stuff. So I just put the cruise on 60 and it was good. But that drive, I mean, look, I don't know how many times on that drive back I thought this truck was just going to go slide right off the road. And I'm like, oh boy. But I knew what to do at that point when it started to slide a little bit, go off the gas. Don't put it on the brake. Let off the gas. Once I actually had to stop completely on the interstate and let vehicles go. But it was like, at this point, I'm like down to like 15 miles an hour because of this truck. So I just backed off and I actually completely, there was nobody out looking, okay, nobody behind me, so I stopped. Let them get a little bit ahead, and then I started off again. So, yeah, don't tell you so. A southerner can drive a vacuum truck in the snow. Well, this one can. Put it that way. This one can. I'm going to wrap this up, but before I do, I'm only going to touch on this quick. Even when the Pelicans fired, when they first fired Alvin Gentry, I'm like, okay, hire somebody good. They took forever. All the other NBA teams that had opened, they were all filling their spots. And here we are, just wait. I was like, okay, well, they must be negotiating with somebody good. When they came out and said Stan VanGundy, I'm going to tell you the first person that came to my mind. Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka was the first one that came to my mind. Why? Because when the Saints hired Mike Ditka after Jim Mora left, they were doing Jim Mora. He resigned and then moved on, and we moved on from Jim Mora, and they hired Mike Ditka. My first thing with that was, is Mike Ditka going to be able to keep up with today's game? With that at that time. And the answer was no. 97, 98, 99 was 3 miserable years of being a Saints fan. Oh my God, was that miserable. Because he couldn't make up his mind between Danny Werfel, Heath Schuler, or the Billy Joes. I mean, we didn't just have one Billy Joe, we had two. Tolliver and Hobart. And the whole time he couldn't figure out who would be the quarterback. And it just, look, it was bad. It was bad. And my opinion of Mike Ditka at that point was, well, the game passed him by. Well, when they hired Stan VanGundy, the first thing that came to my mind is this Mike Ditka all over again. Has he been out of it so long of being on network television that the game of basketball passed him by? Well, I'm starting to believe it did. I'm starting to believe at this point it did. Because, I mean, right now I call them the bad news Pelicans. That's how bad they are. I mean, you got Zion Williams who's playing his ass off. He's playing up to the level we thought he would play at this point of his career. Year 2 of his career. He's really playing well. And he's played more games this year than he's played the last season. So, this season and last. So, already you see an improvement there. They go against Steven Adams, and I think that helps. But they can't play defense to save their lives. I mean, it's bad. So, it is what it is sometimes. So I'm going to get going, and we'll do this again next week. But remember, going sledding in a vacuum truck, not such a good idea. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.